In Nemesis, one of the most important things was the opening scene. It's a key to the rest of the story, and it's the first time that I, spent so much time planning and setting up the opening scene. And it also gives a set of rules for the rest of the story. It says that, okay, if you read that the writer is doing one thing with his left hand, the important things are probably going on with his right hand. So you have to look really carefully, and it's not always that what you see is what's really going on, or more specifically, you can also make illusions when writing, and it's a technique that I used in my later novels, and it also probably led me to focusing very much on the opening chapter of my novels to come, because I think that if you can't hook the reader in the first 10 pages, you've lost. And also for by yourself that if you can see the story, your own story, in the first 10 pages, that gives you the confidence and the confirmation that yes, you have a great story to tell. So you sort of not only have to convince the reader, but you have to convince yourself also. During the writing of Nemesis, I asked a friend of mine who was, or actually a neighbor, but also a friend who was living in the same apartment building that I was living. I used this apartment building for the story, so it was very close to home, the part of that story, and there was a woman living in that apartment building, and I asked my neighbor and friend if it was okay if I used his apartment, and he had a gymnastic apparatus in a room where it was only this apparatus, and he was sort of a crazy guy, and he has this huge apartment. But I was so fascinated with this room, and so it told me that it was very difficult for him, because he's a very sensitive guy. He's an actor, and he said that okay, that somebody's getting killed in my apartment. That is very hard for me. So I don't know if I can let you do that. And I said I totally understand that, and I'll use another apartment. But then he thought about it for a day, and he came back and said that no, you have to use my apartment. No, I don't have to do that. I said yeah, I insist. I'm an artist, and this is I'll do anything for art, so I'll let you use my apartment. And I said, no, it's okay. I already chose another apartment. And then he got angry and said, you promised that you would use my apartment, and how you used my apartment. And so in the end, I used his apartment, every detail in it. And it's I just wrote that first chapter about this apartment a couple of months ago, and I just laughed because I thought about this friend of mine who in the end forced me to use his apartment. In Nemesis, almost all of the story is in Oslo. There is a short trip to Brazil, and this sort of happy hippie paradise in Brazil, and I was there when I was very young. It's a very remote place, and so I'd already done the research for that part of the story. The rest of the story is taking place in Oslo, and it's very strange because when you live in a city for so many years as I have, you would think that you know most of the streets, most of the buildings, you know your city. But I ended up doing research in my neighborhood, just going on my bike, taking pictures, and looking at the houses, because I realized I'd lived there for so long that I had stopped looking. So it was a novel where I didn't have to go far to do research, but still I had to do the research. I think what I wanted to do with Nemesis after having written The Redbreast, which was a very complicated story with echoes from the past. It was part of a World War II story. I wanted to write a real crime story in a more narrow setting with not that many persons. Not necessarily simpler story plot-wise, but a more compact story. That's what I wanted to do with Nemesis, and I think that I spent probably more time working on the plot in Nemesis that I had done with any of my previous books. I think I spent nearly 1 year just working out the plot. So it was a very plot-oriented story. I think that Nemesis is probably the novel that that divides my readers. Some of them are happy with Nemesis, but think that The Redbreast was a better novel, but surprisingly many of my readers have Nemesis as their absolute favorite.